Welcome to Monday Night Mic Check. No, but seriously, hello everybody, and welcome to the new day and time of the VAU Mic Check. Ta-da, we kind of surprised you. We only gave you a week, but who cares, right? Everybody's here.
Yay!
Yes.
So,
Plenty of warning with all the posts on Facebook over and over and over again. Hey, we're Monday.
we're now Monday evening.
Monday.
So yes, thank you all for joining the Mic Check this Monday evening, which will now be our regular day and time. Monday evening, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. Right?
Yes.
Right? Yes. My brain does work sometimes. Today, we have a very interesting little script. At least I feel it's interesting. I guess I'm tooting my own horn with this one, but this is an audiobook script. The story is called The Fifth Season by the author N.K. Jemisin. It is the first story in a three-part series. Yes, three-part series. And the reason I chose it, the reason why we're going to do this is because the narrator has a very interesting character to it. Normally when you read, when you're reading like a third-person omniscient book, this is fantasy, by the way. Normally when you're reading a third-person omniscient book, the narrator is sort of subdued. It's just a window into the world. You sort of follow along and they guide you through and you put everything together in your mind. The narrator in this particular story, though, has its own sort of character to it, which is kind of difficult to describe specifically. So I went ahead and volunteered to go first this time. So without any further ado, here it is. Start us off. Prologue. You are here. Let's start with the end of the world, why don't we? Get it over with and move on to more interesting things. First, a personal ending. There's a thing she will think over and over in the days to come as she imagines how her son died and tries to make sense of something so innately senseless. She will cover little Uche's broken... Hiccup.
Just go!
She will cover Uche's broken little body with a blanket, except his face, because he's afraid of the dark. And she will sit beside it numb, and she will pay no attention to the world that is ending outside. The world has already ended within her, and neither ending is for the first time. She's old hat at this by now. What she thinks then, and hereafter, is, but he was free. And it is her bitter, weary self that answers this almost question every time her bewildered, shocked self manages to produce it. He wasn't, not really, but now he will be. But you need context. Let's try the ending again, writ continentally. Here is a land. It is ordinary as lands go. Mountains and plateaus and canyons and river deltas, the usual. Ordinary, except for its size and dynamism. It moves a lot, this land. Like an old man lying restlessly abed, it heaves and sighs, puckers and farts, yawns and swallows. Naturally, this land's people have named it the Stillness. It is a land of quiet and bitter irony.
Yay!
Your read felt a little bit rushed.
It was a little fast.
I got the feel for what you were doing, but for audiobook it felt rushed.
Okay, so I was moving a bit quick. Does anybody else agree with that?
Yes.
Yeah, that seemed a little fast for us. But nice job not giggling like a little schoolboy when you got to farts, by the way.
Yeah, it takes a certain amount of self-control and maturity to not, giggle uncontrollably when you say the word farts.
It's like, he said farts.
Yeah, the imagery is certainly blunt but poignant, I think.
Yeah, it's got more of a down note through most of it. I mean, not totally somber, but a lot of it felt like it was read with a smile. And
Okay, so I need to make it more serious?
Yeah.
Slower, more serious? Okay.
Yeah, and then just adjust that pacing, just, dial it back a bit.
Okay, can do. Anybody else have anything else? No? Okay, then let's get to this. Prologue. You are here. Let's start with the end of the world, why don't we? Get it over with and move on to more interesting things. First, a personal ending. There is a thing she will think over and over in the days to come as she imagines how her son died and tries to make sense of something so innately senseless. She will cover Uche's broken little body with a blanket, except his face because he's afraid of the dark, and she will sit beside it, numb, and she will pay no attention to the world that is ending outside. The world has already ended within her, and neither ending is for the first time. She's old hat at this by now. What she thinks then, and thereafter, is, but he was free. And it is her bitter, weary self that answers this almost question every time her bewildered, shocked self manages to produce it. He wasn't, not really, but now he will be. But you need context. Let's try the ending again, writ continentally. Here is land. It is ordinary as lands go. Mountains and plateaus and canyons and river deltas, the usual. Ordinary, except for its size and its dynamism. It moves a lot, this land. Like an old man lying restlessly abed, it heaves and sighs, puckers and farts, yawns and swallows. Naturally, this land's people have named it the Stillness. It is a land of quiet and bitter irony.
Better pacing.
That was much better.
Yeah.
Easier to listen to, easier to follow?
Yeah, very easy to listen to. It flowed very well. In spite of the fact that, stumbling over little Uche,
Yeah, twice.
Yeah, but you picked right back up and you stayed with your pacing. So, I mean, if you had been reading this, doing the 20 hours of audiobook work that you would have you would have been easily able to go back and just kind of brush out that piece, and then it would have stayed with the pacing it had.
All right. Any changes? Anything that maybe didn't sound quite, I don't know, that didn't make much sense along the way that I could have clarified more?
Oh, wait, I did catch one thing. When you said, here is a land, you dropped the A, and it was just like, here is land.
Ah, okay. Here is a land.
Yeah.
Okay.
At the same time, you still managed to keep that good pace to it.
And yet, for some reason, I totally dropped the A. Here is land. Here is a land. Okay. Alrighty then.
Yay.
Would you guys like me to take it one more time, or would we like to pass the torch on to another?
Safety?
I'd say take a safety.
Taking a safety. Got it.
Here is a land.
Yes, here's the land, and we'll cover Uchi's broken little, not little Uchi's. Or Uche.
Body.
Uche, whatever. All right, here we go. Prologue. You are here. Let's start with the end of the world, why don't we? Get it over with and move on to more interesting things. First, a personal ending. There is a thing she will think over and over in the days to come as she imagines how her son died and tries to make sense of something so innately senseless. She will cover Uche's broken little body with a blanket, except his face because he's afraid of the dark, and she will sit beside it, numb, and she will pay no attention to the world that is ending outside. The world has already ended within her, and neither ending is for the first time. She's old hat at this by now. What she thinks then, and hereafter, is, but he was free. And it is her bitter, weary self that answers this almost question every time her bewildered, shocked self manages to produce it. He wasn't, not really, but now he will be. You need context. Let's try the ending again, writ continentally. Here is a land. It is ordinary as lands go. It is ordinary as lands go. Mountains and plateaus and canyons and river deltas, the usual. Ordinary, except for its size and its dynamism. It moves a lot, this land. Like an old man lying restlessly abed, it heaves and sighs, puckers and farts, yawns and swallows. Naturally, this land's people have named it the Stillness. It is a land of quiet and bitter irony.
All right.
Well, except for whacking my music stand, I think that was a pretty good one, huh?
Yeah, you turned thereafter into hereafter.
Ah! Of course I would.
Just a slight transition.
Yeah, thereafter. Yeah. Then and thereafter.
Otherwise, okay. you the tone was set. No. And I mean, yeah, it does. It has that flow and feel of series of unfortunate events. That's I don't know what it is, but just has that to it.
Lemony.
Good old lemony. Well, give it the feel that you feel it needs.
Okay. Give
it the feel you feel it needs. There we go.
Feel it needs.
I'm the man your man could smell like.
Michael's been doing a lot of commercial work, hasn't he?
I wish I was doing more. But anyway, so if there was no complaints or changes or anything like that, shall we move on?
Yes, let's.
I would like to hear other people who might not be quite so comfortable with audiobooks try this.
I'd like to try it just because, well, me, not really an audiobook person. I'm more of an animated person. Very.
Yay!
So, hey.
All right, Nathan.
Give it a go, Governor.
Prologue. You are here. Pick up. Prologue. You are here. Let's start with the end of the world, why don't we? Get it over with and move on to more interesting things. First, a personal ending. There is a thing she will think over and over in the days to come as she imagines how her son died and tries to make sense of something so innately senseless. She will cover Uche's broken little body with a blanket, except his face, because he's afraid of the dark. And she will sit beside it, numb, and she will pay no attention to the world that is ending outside. The world has already ended within her, and neither ending is for the first time. She's old hat at this by now. What she thinks then and thereafter is, but he was free. And it is her bitter, weary self that answers this almost question every time her bewildered, shocked self manages to produce it. He wasn't. Not really. But now he will be. But you need context. Let's try the ending again, writ continentally. Here is a land. It is ordinary as lands go, mountains and plateaus and canyons and river deltas. The usual, ordinary, except for its size and its dynamism. It moves a lot. This land, like an old man lying restlessly abed, it heaves and sighs, puckers and farts, yawns and swallows. Naturally, this land's people have named it the Stillness. It is a land of quiet and bitter irony.
So how comfortable did you feel with it?
I felt very comfortable with it.
Okay. First, a little, I guess, a nitpicky note. When you said prologue, it sounded a bit bored.
Okay.
And prologue was like, prologue. You want a character? Have you ever seen, so this is a joke video, but have you ever seen the video Actual Cannibal Shia LaBeouf? You ever heard of that before? Okay, it's one of the most ridiculous videos that I've seen, but I wanted to bring it up if you want to if you guys want to pull it up really quickly, not play it too loud. Yes, it is called Actual Cannibal Shia LaBeouf. The reason I bring it up is because it's this weird sort of story that has this. It's got an on-stage presentation, and there's a narrator up front, and he's sort of guiding you through the whole thing. I want you to watch just a brief little bit of it and pay attention to this character, because that's kind of what I imagined it while I was listening to you, Nathan. I think, since you're so character animated, we need to give you a character. And I'm thinking, this announcer on stage, this person sort of just off to the side, not quite in the spotlight, but definitely front and center, showing what's going on stage while the curtain is open next to them.
Okay.
I mean, it's a completely ridiculous little video, but I think it serves to show the character I mean pretty well.
Shia LaBeouf.
Shia LaBeouf.
Shia LaBeouf. I know. I utter mispronunciation of names. I apologize,
Shia LaBeouf.
if you actually listen to this. It's a thing, you never know who might be listening.
Yeah, it's true.
Okay, what was the title of that again? What was the title of that again?
Actual Cannibal Shia LaBeouf.
Okay.
I realize it's ridiculous, but yeah, it's the only recorded video of an on stage narrator I could think of off the top of my head right now.
Hello, superstar Shia LaBeouf.
So you're familiar with the video, huh?
A little. The only part I remember is Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness gracious.
I just remember Shia LaBeouf as the guy who killed the Indiana Jones franchise.
Oh!
Oh man.
Okay, we'll have to take that one out in post.
I don't know. We might get a few more views if we kept it in there. But basically, all I wanted to bring up with that is, what you're doing here is you have a stage just off to the side of you, but you're mostly facing the audience. You know what's going on the stage. Hopefully, you've read the script, or heard it, or are familiar with what's going on, and you're just guiding them through. You're presenting it, but this particular character has some more emotion, some more almost sass to them. So why don't you go ahead and take that sort of character just off to the side of the stage, but still knowing what's going on and presenting to the audience what's happening on stage, and take it from there.
Okay. Prologue. You are here. Let's start with the end of the world, why don't we? Get it over with and move on to more interesting things. First, a personal ending. There is a thing she will think over and over in the days to come as she imagines how her son died and tries to make sense of something so innately senseless. She will cover Uche's broken little body with a blanket, except his face, because he's afraid of the dark. And she will sit beside it, numb. And she will pay no attention to the world that is ending outside. The world has already ended within her, and neither ending is for the first time. She's old hat at this by now. What she thinks then and thereafter is but he was free. And it is her bitter, weary self that answers this almost question every time her bewildered, shocked self manages to produce it. He wasn't, not really, but now he will be. But you need context. Let's try the ending again, writ continentally. Here is a land. It is ordinary as lands go, mountains and plateaus and canyons and river deltas, the usual, ordinary, except for its size and its dynamism. It moves a lot. This land, like an old man lying restlessly abed, it heaves, sighs, puckers, and farts, yawns, and swallows. Naturally, this land's people have named it the stillness. It is a land of quiet and bitter irony.
All right. What did you guys think of that read that time?
It was a little less dramatic, a little less serious than yours.
Okay. Anything else? Anybody else?
Still felt like you were holding back.
Oh. So you want him to be more active, I guess you could say?
Well, it's Nathan we're talking about here.
More animated. Got it.
Take advantage of all the space I've given myself in here.
Use your gift, man.
Yeah, maybe slightly more animated, maybe a little bit faster.
Yeah,
Well,
I should add
Pretty
something
heavy
to
stuff,
it.
right?
Just a touch faster.
Just a touch faster.
Yeah. That would just be just from me, but my personal opinion on it.
Maybe 10% more melodramatic, too.
So 10% faster and 10% more melodramatic.
Turn to the drama.
Yeah, it's pretty heavy stuff, you know. End of the world, deceased child, all that. Go with it.
Prologue.
Whoa, okay. If you're going to be doing something on the other side of the mic.
I didn't know he was getting ready to start. I
Who
apologize.
was eating snacks? Who brought the snacks?
Hey, hand me some. I'm kind of hungry.
Okay. Prologue. You are here. Let's start with the end of the world, why don't we? Get it over with and move on to more interesting things. First, a personal ending. There's a thing she will think over and over in the days to come as she imagines how her son died and tries to make sense of something so innately senseless. She will cover Uche's broken little body with a blanket, except his face, because he is afraid of the dark. And she will sit beside it numb. She will pay no attention to the world that is ending outside. The world has already ended within her, and neither ending is for the first time. She's old hat at this by now. What she thinks then and thereafter is, but he was free. And it is her bitter, weary self that answers this almost question every time her bewildered, shocked self manages to produce it. He wasn't, not really, but now he will be. But you need context. Let's try the ending again, writ continentally. Here is a land. It is ordinary as lands go, mountains, plateaus, canyons, river deltas, the usual ordinary, except as lands, the usual ordinary, except for its size and its dynamism. It moves a lot, this land. Like an old man lying restlessly abed, it heaves and sighs, puckers and farts, yawns and swallows. Naturally, this land's people have named it the stillness. It is a land of quiet and bitter irony.
Opening it up, what did you guys think of that one? Well, I thought it was a lot smoother that time.
Yeah,
I'll second that.
too. Much more natural for Nate. That one was much more Nathan than
In the previous read?
right.
More Nathan. Yeah, there were a couple of stumbling blocks or weird pronunciation issues that you had that you fixed this time. Like that one sentence, it moves a lot, this land.
Yeah.
Like you would end it after a lot, even though it's a comma, not a period. And you'd start like the new sentence on this land.
I kept seeing Wash from Firefly in my head. We will call it This Land.
Well, why not? I think the reason that they, I think the reason why when it talks about the actual name of the land, when it starts off with naturally, this is sort of like a snarky aside to the people being ironic. You know, land of bitter irony. Naturally, after learning that this land is, you know, can't stay still for 5 minutes, the people have called it the stillness.
Yeah,
It's supposed to be funny because it's ironic.
right there. Yeah.
But yeah, I think that was a pretty decent read. Anybody have any changes? Anybody think?
Are we supposed to be reading prologue?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
It's an audio book, so we have to. Okay, we have to.
Exactly. Yes. As an audio book, you really do read pretty much everything.
All right.
The only thing you don't read is all the copyright information and all the stuff prior.
All right. Hopefully, that's the only stupid question to ask this evening.
Because like prior to that, there's actually a map, and there's no real way to describe the land in a map. So
So there's a map included in the book itself.
yes, in the book itself there is a map,
Hmm.
but we're just worrying about the words.
Yeah, it gives it a little context, though. That's good.
This makes me want to read this book.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, check out the sample. It is definitely a very interesting book, but I'm not here to promote anybody's work. We're doing audiobook work right now. Let's do this. So
I'd like to hear it again, just because there were some starts and stops in there, a little kind of awkwardness, especially towards the end.
What happened to me towards the end was I double read the line because the paragraph was kind of on my text editor crammed together. And like, for some reason, I just kept skipping back up to that same line. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I've already been here. Which, I mean, if you're on your own doing this sort of thing, it's fine. You know, it's just like, okay, I'll just pull that together when I'm finished editing this thing.
Yeah. Hit the clicker and keep going.
Yeah.
still though, like the more you're able to do without having to go back and reread is, less work for you.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, it was my wonderful eyes just decided to skip backwards on it.
Well, why don't you go ahead and then take the final take. We'll call it the final take, not a safety take.
Okay. Prologue. You are here. Let's start with the end of the world, why don't we? Get it over with and move on to more interesting things. First, a personal ending. There is a thing she will think over and over in the days to come as she imagines how her son died and tries to make sense of something so innately senseless. She will cover Uche's broken little body with a blanket, except his face, because he is afraid of the dark, and she will sit beside it, numb, and she will pay no attention to the world that is ending outside. The world has already ended within her, and neither ending is for the first time. She's old hat at this by now. What she thinks then and thereafter is, but he was free. And it is her bitter, weary self that answers this almost question every time her bewildered, shocked self manages to produce it. He wasn't, not really, but now he will be. But you need context. Let's try the ending again, writ continentally. Here is a land. It is an It is ordinary as lands go, mountains and plateaus, and canyons and river deltas, the usual, ordinary, except for its size and its dynamism. It moves a lot, this land. It moves a lot, this land. Like an old man lying restlessly abed, it heaves and sighs, puckers and farts, yawns and swallows. Naturally, this land's people have named it the stillness. It is a land of quiet and bitter irony.
I like the added drama in the first parts.
Yeah, just some small things to note when it talks about when it goes into this woman's inner monologue here. It's talking about her as two separate people, which, I just want to point out a little bit here, where it says, and it is her bitter, weary self that answers this almost question every time her bewildered, shocked self manages to produce it. So it's like these two parts of her mind that are constantly, or that are at odds and going to be constantly at odds from here on out. So my only note for that would be make sure to emphasize that they are different parts of her, the bitter, weary self and the bewildered, shocked self.
Yeah, I see that now. Her bitter, weary self. He wasn't. Not really.
Yeah, that's the bewildered, shocked self.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was my only main note for the story part, but everything else, yeah.
All right.
I like how this thing feels. I mean, I would almost do audiobooks just to do one like this.
Yeah, this is definitely the most interesting narrator I've read so far.
It brings out the actor in me. That's the big thing. I don't do drama a whole lot, but I mean, this is the kind of drama I like getting involved in.
Alrighty then. So why don't we go ahead and move on? Who would like to give this a try next?
Me?
Go for it. Whenever you're ready, from the top.
All right. Prologue. You are here. Let's start with the end of the world, why don't we? Get it over with and move on to more interesting things. First, a personal ending. There is a thing she will think over and over in the days to come as she imagines how her son died and tries to make sense of something so innately senseless. She will cover Uche's broken little body with a blanket, except his face, because he is afraid of the dark, and she will sit beside it numb, and she'll pay no attention to the world that is ending outside. The world has already ended within her, and neither ending is for the first time. She's old hat at this by now. What she thinks then and thereafter is, but he was free. And it is her bitter, weary self that answers this almost question every time her bewildered, shocked self manages to produce it. He wasn't. Not really. But now, he will be. But you need context. Let's try the ending again. Writ continentally. Here is a land. It is ordinary, as lands go. Mountains and plateaus and canyons and river deltas, the usual. Ordinary, except for its size and its dynamism. It moves a lot, this land. Like an old man lying restlessly abed. It heaves and sighs, puckers and farts, yawns and swallows. Naturally, this land's people have named it the stillness. It is a land of quiet and bitter irony.
All right, let's open it up. What did you all think of that read?
That kind of had an e-learning feel to it more than it did novel.
Yeah, towards the end, I would agree with that.
Yeah,
it moved into that e-learning.
like, as me and Michael have pointed out to people, VO voice.
I couldn't put my finger on it, but e-learning, / VO voice. It didn't have that storyteller undertone to it.
More like
you did a pretty good job with mixing up the different scenes and The continuity was very good, I think. It was just the tone, I believe, that threw it off a little bit.
Oh.
Remember, you have a stage just off to the side of you and just behind you. The curtains have opened up, and you're introducing people to what's happening on it. There's an air of drama, of seriousness that goes along with it, but also a slight air of levity. You know, because, I mean, come on, just listen to those first two sentences. Let's start with the end of the world, why don't we? Get it over with and move on to more interesting things. Wait, what? There's something more interesting than the end of the world?
Yep.
Yeah, that's why I keep thinking the series of unfortunate events. And I know, if you've seen the new series version of that.
You mean the movies?
No, the TV series, the one that they
Oh.
on Netflix.
Yeah, the new Netflix series.
Crud.
Yeah.
Nope.
Oh, you haven't?
No.
Oh my gosh.
Spoiler alert.
Reference for
Spoiler alert.
I'm not going to try to spoil anything, but at the same time, there's a good reference in that because of the way Warburton narrates the story. Okay, because he's doing that very thing that Michael's talking about. Is he's standing there with children in the same scene with him as though he's not even there, but he's narrating what they're doing.
Yeah, so you're in the scene, like you're walking around, you're seeing all of it, but you're not actually there.
Mm-hmm.
You're guiding everybody through and giving them a little bit of information and context to what it is they're seeing on this stage.
And Michael, you made a very good point about the first two sentences. I could almost hear John Cleese reading them.
Let's start
I can
with
see
the end
that.
of the world. Why don't we?
Get it over with and move on to more interesting things.
Well, maybe that's a bit much, but you hit the nail on the head with there's just a little bit of sideways levity there
Yeah.
to be acknowledged.
Yeah, it definitely, I mean, you definitely have to subdue it in that first paragraph that you run into here because, you know, that's when it goes into something really serious. A woman has lost her child. And we have no idea how, and for all we know, she may have no idea how. And a little personal note, here's another thing. After it talks about she will cover Uche's broken little body with a blanket, have you ever heard like a parent describing the way that they have to like prepare food for their kid? You know, like, I like putting together, a ham. He likes hamburgers, so we have to cook the hamburger and everything like that. We put it together with everything you'd expect, except for onions. He hates onions.
Yep.
You see where that change happens? It's supposed to be that sort of same change in her mind. She will cover Uche's broken little body with a blanket, except his face, because he's afraid of the dark.
Whoa.
Do you see what I mean? Like, this is her parent. This is like... She's still his parent, and she still is mindful, even though he's dead.
Oh. I thought we were describing wrapping up his body like making a sandwich.
No. I am a parent. My kids are like getting up into their 20s now. So, well, my oldest one's close in age to Michael. The whole concept is you want to make sure that child gets exactly what that child desires. And if that child's afraid of the dark, you're going to make sure you don't surround that child with darkness. You know, you're still feeling protective over that kid. You know, it's just, it goes right to the core of your soul. You can feel it in your bones, that love you have for your kid. And that's what's going on with her. She's got this thing where it's like, I can't cover his face. He'll get afraid. He'll be afraid. I don't want him to be full of fear and dread. No, and that's that feeling that she's got. And you're describing that to the audience.
So yeah, why don't we go ahead and take it up from the top again?
All right. So, prologue. You are here. Let's start with the end of the world, why don't we? Get it over with and move on to more interesting things. First, a personal ending. There is a thing she'll think over and over in the days to come as she imagines how her son died and tries to make sense of something so innately senseless. She will cover Uche's broken little body with a blanket, except his face because he is afraid of the dark, and she will sit beside it numb, and she'll pay no attention to the world that is ending outside. The world has already ended within her, and neither ending is for the first time. She's old hat at this by now. What she thinks then and thereafter is, but he was free. And it is her bitter, weary self that answers this almost question every time her bewildered, shocked self manages to produce it. He wasn't. Not really. But now, he will be. But you need context. Let's try the ending again, writ continentally. Here is a land. It is ordinary as lands go, mountains and plateaus and canyons and river deltas, the usual. Ordinary except for its size and its dynamism. It moves a lot, this land. Like an old man lying restlessly abed, it heaves and sighs, puckers and farts, yawns and swallows. Naturally, this land's people have named it the Stillness. It is a land of quiet and bitter irony. Not quite the storyteller.
No, you noticed that, right?
When you hit "Here is a Land," you started sounding like a documentary.
Yeah, as soon as Here's a Land came around, it was explainer. No, so okay, so let's break down the emotion of what's going on for the next part, shall we? Let's just focus on from the dots down, because can we all agree that he did everything before that pretty well?
Oh yeah.
I think reviewing that would just be sort of not too necessary. You did a really good job with all that stuff beforehand, but let's just go down from here. So what we're moving to is describing, obviously, the whole place. Now all of the actors. Now, imagine the dots as the curtains have closed. The light is still shining, so there's bright red coming off of the curtains. You hear all the shuffling in the background, and then it opens back up, and it's just a blank stage with a bunch of set pieces all over it. But you need context. Let's try the ending again, writ continentally. So we're moving back a step, but we're looking at it from a different point of view. So you point over to the stage. You motion over to the stage. Here is a land. It is ordinary as lands go. You're just describing it as though it was a person. It is ordinary as lands go. Mountains and plateaus and canyons and river deltas.
The usual.
The usual, yeah. You see, it's just like mountains and plateaus and canyons and river deltas. The usual, ordinary, except for its size and its dynamism. It moves a lot. This land. This is where you go into the weird quirk. The quirk. What am I saying? Weird quirk.
Quirk? Yeah.
Quark. Captain Quark. No,
Been watching what was it? Deep Space Nine?
But yeah, this is where you describe the quirk. This is where you go into the weirdness. It's like everything you know, except it's huge and it moves a lot. Ordinary, except for its size and its dynamism. It moves a lot. This man, like an old man lying restlessly abed, it heaves and sighs, puckers and farts, yawns and swallows. Naturally, this land's people have named it the Stillness. That's where you get into the whole, snarky, this is a land that is far from still. I have just described that. This is a land that is far from being what it's described. And now, this is what they have named it. The Stillness. It is a land of quiet and bitter irony.
All right. All right. Try to imagine sort of a stage narrator, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
All right. So can we start from there?
Yeah. Start from the three dots.
All right. ... But you need context. Let's try the ending again, writ continentally. Here is a land. It is ordinary as lands go. Mountains and plateaus and canyons and river deltas, the usual. Ordinary except for its size and its dynamism. It moves a lot, this land. Like an old man lying restlessly abed.
Right, I'm gonna stop you right here. It's the wrong tone, the wrong feel.
No,
that's more like carnival salesman.
All right.
Come one, come all, take a look at this. It's some oil that'll cure everything. It's derived from snakes.
I
Some
almost
of the car
expected you to
sales
break
up
out
here
in
in the local
song like
area.
that was a Broadway musical scene you were doing there.
Now, this is more of a personal note with the audience, so you're like leaning in, but you need context. Let's try the ending again, writ continentally.
All right. So, but you need context. Let's try the ending again, writ continentally. Something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
But you need context. Let's try the ending again, writ continentally. Here is a land. It is ordinary as lands go. Mountains and plateaus and canyons and river deltas, the usual. Ordinary except for its size and its dynamism. It moves a lot, this land, like an old man lying restlessly abed. It heaves and sighs, puckers and farts, yawns and swallows. Naturally, this land's people have named it the Stillness. It is a land of quiet and bitter irony.
All right, some input. What did you guys think?
It felt like a sales pitch.
Crud.
No, well, there's a lot of listing in this particular paragraph, but what you're also describing the emotional ebb and flow of a life, but you're describing it as a land. Okay, so what you're having to think of, okay, you're thinking mountains and plateaus, canyons, river deltas, the usual, which is kind of just being descriptive of the way somebody's life flows. All right. So it while your head is seeing mountains and plateaus, you're just picturing, you know, someone having a great time, their life is good, mountain. Plateau, just ordinary, regular, you know, canyons, bad times, river deltas, people feeding into your life. I mean, it's just it's a lot of metaphor is what's going on right there. Okay.
Oh, I got it.
Oh,
You've seen Disney's Aladdin, right?
yes.
Okay. Do you remember Robin Williams' character at the very, very beginning where he's like that salesman?
Look, he ripped the dice and makes Julian fries. Oh, wait.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have this one.
Do you remember? Yeah. But do you remember how he went into that like really mystical sort of tone when he started talking about the story of the lamp? How everything slowed down, how the feeling changed.
Trying to recall it right now. I can sort of recall it.
Okay, because I'm trying to think of like an old style of mystical storytelling where somebody gets like really sort of quiet and up close and mysterious. That's sort of what's going on here.
Oh.
It's sort of that feeling that you're trying to evoke. Because what you've done is you've literally taken everybody off of the earth, out into space. It's quiet, it's dark, all you see is this land. But you need context. Let's try the ending again, writ continentally. Bam, everybody is now transported out of the atmosphere, out into space, looking down on the earth, looking down on this land. Here is a land. And as you describe it, you start flying over it. It is ordinary as lands go. Mountains and plateaus and canyons and river deltas, the usual. Ordinary, except for its size and its dynamism. You back out again and see that there are active volcanoes, that it's shaking. You can see the seismic waves going through the ground. It's almost like this mystical journey over the land, showing you everything about it. So let's take that feel and start from the top. Just go for it.
All right. Wait, all the way from the top?
No, sorry, but you need context from the dots or from the section break.
All right. Okay, so, but you need context. Let's try the ending again. Writ continentally. Here is a land. It is ordinary as lands go. Kind, brave, strong. Mountains and plateaus and canyons and river deltas, the usual. Ordinary, except for its size and its dynamism. It moves a lot, this land. Like an old man lying restlessly abed it, it heaves and sighs, puckers and farts, yawns and swallows. Naturally, this land's people have named it the Stillness. It is a land of quiet and bitter irony.
Okay. There was a lot of stopping and starting in there, but you definitely had a much better flow that time around. That feel, that frame of mind fit it much better. What did you guys think?
Yeah,
Am I off?
right.
Did you agree with that?
Yeah, it flowed a little better. That time though, I still, yeah, I feel like you need to dial it back, like way back, because you're describing a pretty dark scene. Actually, both of the scenes in both of the two paragraphs are really dark, really bleak, and it just seemed like with every read, you're still a little over the top for me.
Crud.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're watching a woman covering her dead son with a blanket as though he's alive. You know, she's got grief just ebbing out of her. Okay, and you are the person responsible for referencing and describing every last bit of how that grief is working. Okay.
Okay.
And so, I mean, the musicality of this is it all has a kind of a down note. It's all, and if it were music put behind this, it'd be played in a low tone.
Yes, it's quite dark. It's quite foreboding almost, but in a jovial sort of way.
You know, yeah, you would just have that low, somewhat somber tone. And I mean, literally, you kind of adjust your pacing to the musicality of what you hear going on in the background and what you can see in front of you. You know, I mean, I don't know what you're picturing, okay? But, okay, when I picture these scenes, I put myself in that scene. Okay? The microphone, the foam, all this stuff in my room disappears. I am there. I'm standing looking at this woman, looking at her son, and then I'm describing, you know, all of this stuff in this slightly tongue-in-cheek way. I mean, come on, farts. But at the same time, still using the same brevity that I was using when I was describing her dealing with her dead son.
Oh.
You know, kind of adjust the feel of it. Because you're painting a picture for the listener.
All right. Let's see. All right.
Why don't we go one last take from Butt, you know, from the section break, and then in the interest of time, we're probably going to have to move on.
Yeah, all right. Broken little body. But you need context. Let's try the ending again, writ continentally. Here is a land. It is ordinary as lands go. Mountains and plateaus and canyons and river deltas, the usual. Ordinary, except for its size and its dynamism. It moves a lot, this land. Like an old man lying restlessly abed it, it heaves and sighs, puckers and farts, yawns and swallows. Naturally, this land's people have named it the Stillness. It is a land of quiet and bitter irony.
That's actually pretty good.
Much better.
Yeah.
Much better.
Yeah.
Oh,
Way to go.
God.
You did it.
Yes.
I have no idea how. The thing is, since this was my last take, and so far so good, so far like overthinking it just didn't work. So I just, screw it. Just relax,
there you go.
Relax a lot.
That's
There
the
you
whole
go.
thing about it, is throwing away the overthinking, you know?
You were overthinking it, and you were self-conscious, and it showed.
And that will cause you to stumble every time, because you start trying to make stuff work instead of just making it work.
Okay.
So
It's called
you done good.
paralysis. justice in the construction industry.
Well, thank gosh.
Congratulations, you done good. All right.
Thank you.
Who would like to go next?
Let me take a shot.
All right. Whenever you're ready, from the top.
Prologue. You are here. Let's start with the end of the world, why don't we? Get it over with. Move on to more interesting things. First, a personal ending. There's a thing she will think over and over in the days to come as she imagines how her son died and tries to make sense of something so innately senseless. She will cover Yuche's broken little body with a blanket, except his face, because he is afraid of the dark, and she will sit beside it numb, and she'll pay no attention to the world that is ending outside. The world has already ended within her, and neither ending is for the first time. She's old hat at this by now. Sorry. What she thinks then and thereafter is, but he was free. And it is her bitter, weary self that answers this almost question every time her bewildered, shocked self manages to produce it. He wasn't. Not really. But now he will be. But you need context. Let's try the ending again, writ continentally. Here is a land. It is ordinary as lands go. Mountains and plateaus and canyons and river deltas, the usual. Ordinary, except for its size and its dynamism. It moves a lot, this land. Like an old man lying restlessly abed, it heaves and sighs, puckers and farts, yawns and swallows. Naturally, this land's people have named it the Stillness. It is a land of quiet and bitter irony.
I don't have any notes to that. That was fantastic right off the bat.
Very good, Shane.
Absolutely fantastic.
Yes.
One of the things that I noticed
I
in this,
contracted one word. That's as soon as I did it, I caught it.
yeah, but that really is
That's why I
so
contracted
minor.
two words.
That really is minor enough that I actually don't think even the author would pay too much attention to that, because normally when you do audiobook work, it's all about the story.
Yeah.
So changing things like making that description list of mountains and plateaus and canyons and rivers, if you remove all the ands, that's something they'll want you to re-record. Contracting one word, it's fine because you didn't break the story at all. Like that was pure storyteller from beginning to end. And I noticed that none of the usual radio announcer voice that you sometimes fall into ever came up. That wasn't an issue whatsoever.
I had to listen, make sure it was Shane.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I listen to a lot of NPR, and I think that probably helps.
There you go.
But in audio books, because basically, most of what NPR does, especially in their news programming in the mornings, is just short little novels, basically, and short little nonfiction books, and that's what an audiobook is to me. It's just one long NPR piece.
Well, that worked. That worked beautifully for you because that story was unbroken from beginning to end. It felt right all the way through. Way to go.
If I had to pick out one small thing, Michael made a good point about the snarkiness in describing what the native people called the place. It didn't sound as snarky as I expected it to, but other than that, the emotions of it came through very well all the way through. So,
Yeah, no, it was, again, very few notes we could really give other than, extremely minor changes. But, other than that, I'm blown away.
Yeah.
That's great.
Terrific.
One more final take, add a little bit more snark with the stillness, and that'll be that.
All right, so when we take it again?
Yep, absolutely.
All right. Prologue. You are here. Let's start with the end of the world, why don't we? Get it over with. Move on to more interesting things. First, a personal ending. There's a thing that she will think over and over in the days to come as she imagines how her son died and tries to make sense of something so innately senseless. She will cover Uche's broken little body with a blanket, except his face, because he's afraid of the dark. And she will sit beside it numb, and she will pay no attention to the world that is ending outside. The world has already ended within her, and neither ending is for the first time. She's old hat at this by now. What she thinks then and thereafter is, but he was free. And it is her bitter, weary self that answers this almost question every time her bewildered, shocked self manages to produce it. He wasn't. Not really. But now he will be. But you need context. Let's try the ending again, writ continentally. Here is a land. It is ordinary as lands go. Mountains and plateaus and canyons and river deltas. The usual. Ordinary, except for its size and its dynamism. It moves a lot, this land. Like an old man lying restlessly abed, it heaves and sighs, puckers and farts, yawns and swallows. Naturally, this land's people have named it the stillness. It is a land of quiet and bitter irony.
All right, so this is going to be a long session for you. How does tomorrow look? You're probably going to be in studio for maybe 3 to 4 hours. Maybe for the first one. Don't worry, we'll pay you by the hour.
Nice. Per finished hour, huh?
Wow.
No, per hour of work, not finished hour.
Oh.
Whoa.
Wow.
Yeah, I wish I had that kind of job.
Yeah.
We can always dream.
Haven't seen that option on ACX yet.
Yeah. Yeah, per hour of work and per finished hour, two totally separate
Oh,
things.
we do have an audiobook guy in here, don't we?
Do we?
Who is it?
John, I believe.
I'm still in the learning process. I saw it. We actually took place in a webinar a couple of weeks ago, and it's coming up again. Hopefully, we'll post this one on YouTube because someone forgot to hit the record. But I can share it with you. A lot of really good information on contracts and what have you.
No, tonight is a good session for you.
Yeah.
By the way, my apologies for that brief pause both times. My iPad went back to I had to unlock it again.
Oh,
No worries. The beautiful thing is you kept with that storytelling tone and you kept with the same feel and everything. So little breaks really weren't a big deal. Like in recording, you just cut those out and you'd never be able to tell anything happened.
Yeah.
So no problem.
never broke character there. That was good.
All right.
Who's left? Anybody didn't go yet?
John
Oh, okay.
and Lauren's fixing to head in here.
Well, in the meantime,
I guess that means
John?
me. All right. Well, having had the benefit of listening to all you gentlemen, hopefully I can do this justice.
we're expecting a lot from you here. No pressure.
Yeah. Prologue. You are here. Let's start with the end of the world, why don't we? Get it over with and move on to more interesting things. First, a personal ending. There is a thing she will think over and over in the days to come as she imagines how her son died and tried to make sense of something so innately senseless. She will cover Uche's broken little body with a blanket, except his face, because he's afraid of the dark, and she will sit beside it numb, and she will pay no attention to the world that is ending outside. The world is already ended within her, and neither ending is for the first time. She's old hat at that by now. What she thinks then and thereafter is, but he was free. And it is her bitter, weary self that answers this almost question every time her bewildered, shocked self manages to produce it. He wasn't. Not really. But now he will be. But you need context. Let's try the ending again, writ continentally. Here is a land, as ordinary as lands go, mountains and plateaus, canyons and river deltas, the usual. Ordinary, except for its size and its dynamism. It moves a lot, this land. Like an old man lying restlessly abed, it heaves and sighs, puckers and farts, yawns and swallows. Naturally, this land's people have named it the stillness. It is a land of quiet and bitter irony.
All right. Opening it up once again. What did you all think of that?
I liked his pacing.
Okay. So first note, good pacing. Anything else from anybody?
Oh my God, that is a big read.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Welcome.
So,
Hello, Governor.
moving on, it was very relaxing.
Too mellow for the subject matter?
Well, you got this. So I've noticed this from the moment that first day that you came onto the mic check. You have this natural lilt in your voice and in your reads. And I've been trying to sort of because every time I hear it, like I imagine. Well, no, I'm imagining how I can describe it to you so you can hear it. It's kind of like. Where was it the most prominent? Where did I hear it the most? First of all, in the after the section break, where writ continentally, just after that, when you said "Here is a land," you left it open like you were going to continue the idea, and that's part of that lilt that you have. Is "Here is a land." It is ordinary as lands go. You sort of left that open. This is like some weird back off. We're away from that whole zoomed in scene. Back off. Here is a land. You're starting up a whole new idea. And that didn't really come through in the read. It was like, here's a land. It sounded like there was going to be more to the sentence. But I'm still trying to come up with it so that I can just present it so you can hear what I mean when I mean a natural lilt to your read.
Yeah. Well,
it works in many cases, and it's not normally a big problem. But here it added some weird feelings in places that it didn't quite feel right.
all right. Well, you have mentioned before that it tends to vary in pitch a little too much in places. Is that sort of what you're getting at?
Yeah. And again, having an actual demonstration of it is much more solid than just trying to describe it generally. But now you're going to think about it too much, and I don't want you to. I want you to focus on just the story.
Sure.
Because I've been going on about it for too long. So make sure to button up the different periods, the different ideas. That would be my main thing.
Okay.
Because it just stuck out really, really harsh to me on Here's a Land.
All right. As far as the emotion, the storytelling, was it too bland, too much? Do we need to dial anything back, or?
Well, what did you guys all think? What, in answer to his question, what did you guys think?
I came in the middle of it, so I can't say anything.
Okay, no worries. But I don't know. Anybody else? What did you think? Does he need to change anything up with the storytelling at all, or? Okay, well, I guess that's a pretty clear answer. That no, you're doing all right with the storytelling.
Right.
Let's go ahead and try it from the beginning.
All right. No lilt. Got it.
Now you're going to think about it. Just focus on the story.
No. I won't. I try to take direction. As it was intended. All right then. Prologue. You are here. Let's start with the end of the world, why don't we? Get it over with and move on to more interesting things. First, a personal ending. There is a thing she will think of over and over again in the days to come as she imagines how her son died and tries to make sense of something so innately senseless. She will cover Uche's broken little body with a blanket, except his face, which, because he is afraid of the dark, and she will sit beside it numb, and she will pay no attention to the world that is ending outside. The world is already ended within her, and neither ending is for the first time. She's old hat at that by now. What she thinks then and thereafter is, but he was free. And it is her bitter, weary self that answers this almost question every time her bewildered, shocked self manages to produce it. He wasn't, not really, but now he will be. But you need context. Let's try the ending again, writ continentally. Here is a land. Here is a land. So now I'm doing it. All right. Here is a land. It's ordinary as lands go. Mountains and plateaus and canyons and river deltas, the usual. Ordinary, except for its size and dynamism. It moves a lot, this land. Like an old man lying restlessly abed, it heaves and sighs, puckers and farts, yawns and swallows. Naturally, this land's people have named it the stillness. It is a land of quiet and bitter irony.
That was fantastic.
Thank you.
That was a great read. What did you all think? At least, if you have a differing opinion, go for it.
It was more engaging, more, I don't want to say forced, but it was more upfront.
Yeah, it was definitely, well, the right word, engaging.
Yeah, I would say that's a really good way to put it. Engaging. Yeah.
I could feel
I thought that was very good.
his heart was in it, not just his head. That's the biggest thing about a read like this is it's a heart and soul kind of read.
Yeah, there's a lot going on here.
There's a lot of emotion. There's a lot of strangeness happening. And this is just the beginning.
I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
Okay, a read like this, because of the emotional ebb and flow in it, would be enough to make someone feel that emotion in themselves. Especially when you're putting all of your heart into that read instead of just like trying to, this technical thing here, this comma there, this, there's a kind of a flow to it that you have to feel, That's why I was saying earlier, a read like this, I mean, I just go on full on actor with this sort of thing, not just, I'm reading an audiobook, because it's got that drama to it, that type of,
But yeah, you hit it all. I think that was a really, really solid read, like just all around. It wasn't too like the emotional and differentiational emphases were where they needed to be, and it just I don't know, just going too technical I think would just ruin it. It was just a really solid, really good read.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
So congrats, you done it. You done good.
Congrats.
You hired.
Sorry, Shane.
How does $1 million sound?
Up front, please. Up front.
You're only going to pay me by the hour.
Yeah.
That's okay. It's negotiable.
Thanks. I needed that laugh.
Alrighty then. So we have one person who has not gone, right?
Yes.
And you have just been thrown right into the middle of this.
If it's me, I have to say, I'm gonna sit and listen, and the reason for it is we suffered a loss this morning, and
I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's a really good friend of mine and a pastor, and
It's very understood.
Okay.
Thank you very
But
much.
yeah, so this book here, The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin, is definitely an interesting book to at least look into, to read a little bit of, due to its narrator's animated style. Let's see, further along, I mean, I don't quite have it typed up, because I mean, I literally just copied it off of my Kindle. I was that lazy. I'm just like, yeah, I'm not going to be bothered to actually find the text here and start linking it around. But yeah, this is definitely one of those kinds of books that'll really test your narrative ability because of just how strange the narration can be.
Well, I got a feel right from the very beginning, like, let's start with the end of the world. Why don't we? It sounds sarcastic. That strikes me as a sarcastic line.
For instance, here's another set of it. Here's another part of the narration. Just slightly later on, it's describing a city called Eumenes, which is this core of this civilization's empire, essentially. And it just described a building, which is called the Black Star. And the way that it describes it is here. Where is it? Right over here. Pyramids are the most stable architectural form, and this one is pyramids times 5 because why not? So, so it's describing this whole city after telling about somebody standing to the side of the city and looking it over, and it says this: the Black Star is where the leaders of the empire meet to do their leaderish things. The Amber Sphere is where they keep their emperor, carefully preserved and perfect. He wanders its golden halls in genteel despair, doing what he is told and dreading the day his masters decide that his daughter makes a better ornament. None of these places or people matter, by the way. I simply point them out for context. But here is a man who will matter a great deal. You can imagine how he looks for now. You may also imagine what he is thinking. This might be wrong, mere conjecture, but a certain amount of likelihood applies nevertheless. Based on his subsequent actions, there are only a few thoughts that could be in his mind at this moment. So yeah, this narrator has a very interesting style and a very interesting character all its own.
In my younger days, I read a lot of Douglas Adams, and it feels like Douglas Adams. Now that I've heard this other bit that you read, it's just like there's a lot of tongue-in-cheek humor that's thrown in the midst of everything.
There's only one thing that's on his mind, possibly at this moment. Cheesy puffs!
It does. It's got that kind of a thing going on there. Is this a British author?
I have no idea.
Because it does. It's got that tongue-in-cheek element to it that I see come into a lot of even the most dramatic stuff I've seen. You know, there'll be just some kind of dry wit that's in the middle of it.
I got that too. I considered reading it in an accent for a minute.
I can smell the crumpets off of it.
Now, of course, the accent I was going to flow with, and I did test this when I first kind of practice read this while I was waiting for everyone to come in, was I had dropped down into this southern dialect of mine and kind of adjusted a little bit in prologue. You are here. Let's start with the end of the world, why don't we?
You see, that works.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, kind of, but I think the semi-cartoonishness of the feel,
yeah,
it detracts from how actually dark the story ends up being.
Yeah,
because imagine describing the woman and caring for her dead son's body, in that. The only reason I bring that up is because the style of accent that you used, the way that it was implemented, it feels very cartoony.
Anime.
Feels very
anime.
Character.
I thought anime when I read it, actually.
Yeah. Well, if you drop into an accent like this, it's like prologue. You are here. Let's start with the end of the world, why don't we? Get it over with and move on to more interesting things. First, a personal ending. There is a thing she will think over and over in days to come.
Yeah, why don't we have Chris here? Because Chris Kendall. Why don't we have him here? Because his voice would be perfect for this.
Yeah, there we go. That would be it right there.
He's got a London accent, not a Manchester accent like Nathan was just pulling off there.
Yeah, I know.
Still, though, I think it would work.
Yeah.
I have a tendency sometimes to slide toward Liverpool.
Mm-hmm. Almost the same.
Out on the Beatles, that's why.
I want to hear Michael try the redneck.
The redneck?
Oh, yeah.
I'm really not all that good at it. I mean,
that wasn't bad.
This is about as good as I can get. I'm not necessarily too practiced in it, This is just more just like my general attempt at that sort of
You've
accent.
been around Texas, haven't you?
He's from Texas.
Actually, no, I'm not from Texas. I am from California, but I do have a lot of family in Texas. So yes, I have plenty of family down in Texas, and that's sort of my reference point right there.
Well, bless your heart.
If he grew up in Texas, he'd sound a whole lot more like Matthew McConaughey. Don Henley, that real slow Southern.
Yeah, and I might actually land more gigs than I have recently.
All right.
I don't know. Southern accents do not land one gigs. I can do
That's gotten me a total of one invite on voices.com over the past 5 years.
I take that back. It did work me into a radio gig, but only because he wanted characters that did Southern accents. Yeah.
It's not like there's a lot of voice actors in Texas and California, right?
Yeah.
Actually,
Classic rock, was it?
You would be surprised at how many recording studios are out in Texas. Holy crap!
Yeah, sure.
Holy crap!
Hey, it's the home of Funimation.
When I was when I went down there and I was seriously considering moving there, I was immediately looking around for recording studios that I could potentially go to, and there are like 20. We were like 20 or 30 within a 10-mile radius. It was ridiculous. There were tons of them, and actually most of them were privately owned. They were just some guy. He took his some like in-law house that he's got on his yard or his property and whatnot, and just converted it into a really solid sound studio.
Wow.
So like you'd be surprised. Like there are actually quite a bit going on out there.
They used to shoot a lot of movies in Dallas too.
Yeah, that's what I
I know a
understand
lot
as well.
of a lot of network affiliate type VO agencies are Dallas based too. Because I had VO Atlanta. I because that's where I kind of got the fire lit under me to start morphing into promo work. And one of the guys that works with CBS and with Fox said, "Yeah, you probably do need to live in LA to make a living doing it, but." He said there's enough work in Dallas and Chicago and other places where if you want to do the network affiliate tonight at 9 on Eyewitness News, he said you can definitely make a go of it just from finding work based out of Dallas.
Yeah, which is why Texas is a very, very, very appealing prospect to move to right now. Because California and California. So if you want to check out more of the book that we have been reading, once again, it is called The Fifth Season by the author N.K. Jemisin. Just because I don't want to be, I don't want to get into any trouble with using the work and not crediting the person who created it. Author N.K. Jemisin, book, 5th season, just to make sure that it's there. But yeah, I think this is actually a pretty good place to go ahead and stop the recording. What do you think, Nathan?
I think that's a good idea.
Alrighty then. Well, thank you very much for joining us at this new night and time for the VAU Mic Check.
This has been a terrific kickoff, and we kicked it off just right with this audiobook read. Yes, we did.
I want more practice.
Well, we'll be more than happy to allow you some more right after this. Well, now I sound like we're going into commercial break. We're not. But we'll see you all next week, everybody. Next week, look forward to it because Nathan is the one choosing the script. And who knows what comes from the mind of Nathan.
Oh, that was just beautifully maniacal, wasn't it? See everybody next week.
Later.